Hi. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. So today I figured we would talk about all the movies that I've watched in January. I've been really good about going to the movie theater and actually watching new movies. So I wanted to highlight that in this video because I did see a couple of new ones and I think they are worth mentioning. Plus one movie that I watched exclusively on my Patreon for my patrons. So if you want to check that out, we'll talk about that later. But if you want to check that out and see what it was and see my reaction to it, because no lie, I think it is one of the best movie reaction commentary videos I've ever recorded. That's exclusive to Patreon. I'm not even hyping it up just to get you to go to the Patreon. Like, it is one of my favorite reactions that I've done. So once again, link for that will all be in the description. But today we're going to be talking about all the movies that I watched in January. So I've watched some crazy hitters. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first movie that I watched in January was on the 10th, and it's actually the only movie I didn't rate. I rate every single movie I watch. This was the only one I did not rate, and that is Beau is Afraid by Ari Aster from 2023. I love Ari Aster. Don't get me wrong, I do. And I hope I don't turn anybody off when I say this. I don't know. Maybe it's just me being dumb, but I just did not understand this movie. Okay, you know, there are some people and some movies, like for me, with Mother by Darren Aronofsky, I got the message. That is one of the movies that I picked up all of the analogies, all the symbolism. I picked it up like that, watching that movie the first time I watched it. That reaction is also on my channel. But that was a prime example of me being able, like, some movies being for some people, some movies are not going to be for some people, right? This movie, I just don't think it was for me, and I didn't know what to rate it because I didn't really know what I experienced. Like, I personally did not feel, which again, this could be just, I just didn't get it. There was something that I just did not pick up on, but I didn't feel like there was any, you know, like with him, there's a whole underlining message to each thing. There's like a common theme, right? In Midsommar, it's about like family and finding family. Like obviously her family in the very beginning of Midsommar are all dead and she finds like this new family, whatever, in Midsommar. Same thing with like Hereditary. And this one, I did not understand it. The concept alone is about this man named Beau who is trying to get to his mother's house. His mother passes away and he is just trying to get there. But this movie, if anything, I think this is the most anxiety-inducing movie I have ever seen in my whole life. It's really close to being on par with Mother because that movie as well was very anxiety-inducing, but I understood what was going on and what it meant. This movie I did not, because I thought it was all gonna be about having a complicated relationship with your mom or with family in general, complications growing up, you know, single mom, whatever. Like I thought that was gonna be the theme. And I think, you know, to a certain extent that was the theme, but how it was told was so confusing to me. I did not understand it. I just felt like things were happening just to happen, and I hate movies like that. I still think this was a good movie in the sense of like how it was directed, because you have to be a great director in order to direct something this crazy. Like shit was going down at all times and it was interesting, but I just did not understand how it all connected with each other and it was very confusing to me. So I did not rate it at all. All that I said in my review was, I don't know what the F to rate this. Time to watch some Phineas and Ferb. Because I needed a palate cleanser on that as well. Oh, someone commented. Review it on the channel. To Manuel. If you're watching this, I am reviewing it on the channel and it's happening right now. Hi, how are you? This movie was very, which again, maybe someone can explain it to me. I would never rewatch this movie. which I don't know if this movie is meant to be rewatched. Confusing movies like that, I feel like sometimes the director kind of wants you to rewatch it. I mean, that would be kind of the goal as a director making a movie, is like you would want people to watch your movie multiple times. But this is one of the movies where I'm like, I don't think I would ever rewatch it. And maybe that wasn't his goal, which is totally fine. Obviously we're on different playing fields, I guess, but it's just so confusing because Midsummer I loved. Also a very anxiety inducing movie. Hereditary I didn't love. This movie I didn't love, or I just don't know how to feel about it. If I got what all the stuff meant, and I love Joaquin Phoenix, so it had all of the elements, the positive elements for me to actually like this, and it didn't happen, so that was kind of disappointing. Yeah, I just don't know how to feel about this movie. If someone can explain to me, it would take a whole lot, and plus, if you're new to the channel, I am not a fan of long movies. This movie was fucking long. What is my dog doing? Like, he is so chill. Like, what is going on? So if it would take a long time for someone to explain to me what was going on in this movie, because it's like 3 hours long. And I just hate gross movies, like poopy gross. I don't know. That's just me. Anyways, I didn't rate this one. On the 19th, I saw Moana 2 in theaters, and I gave this 3 stars. Now, I think we all expected this to be a cash grab, and it was. The story was like, they didn't finish it. I did like the ending where they took Moana, like her character specifically. I did like that. The songs were not slapping, okay? The jokes, not very funny. It was like, for some reason, it seemed more like kid-ish. And I was like, did the first Moana feel like this for kids? You know, like the whole thing with Disney and Pixar or whatever is that they make movies that adults and kids can like or relate to. There was none of that in this movie. It was purely like no one can relate to anything that's going on in this movie because it's so mystical, magical. And I was like, okay, no, wait, hold on a second. I don't know if this was tied accurately to the whole like demigod thing and like the lore of this world. I don't know if it's like accurate in any way to like legends, old legends, but it seemed a lot more mystical, magical than I thought it was gonna be. So that was kind of a surprise, not gonna lie. Next, on the 22nd, I watched Elemental. So I think this came out in the crux of summertime in 2023. I think that Disney was really hoping for that summer blockbuster hit, you know, and a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people even really liked this movie when it came out, or they're just like, oh, the story's weak, whatever. It was nominated and people were like, how the fuck is this movie nominated? I remember hearing that discourse a lot when this movie came out. And because of that, it deterred me from watching this movie. Here we are. I watched it 2025. This movie was fantastic. All right, do not let the public opinion, good or bad, deter you from watching a movie because everyone's gonna have X, Y, and Z opinion about everything. Okay, no. This movie was so fucking good. I bawled my eyes out. Like, I'm not even joking. I cried watching this movie. I gave this 4.5 stars, y'all. 4.5 stars. So the story for this, it's chef's kiss. The story for this, it's like an elemental world where there's fire people, water people, like clouds, air people, I guess, and earth. So there's like grass people, right? And the whole thing it basically has this underlining story about being an immigrant and coming to America for a better life, right? So the main people in this movie is like the fire, I don't even know what her name is. I think her name is Ember. She comes to America with her family. Her family opens up this shop and they have all these customs. They have to learn new language and it's very, you know what I mean? Like, it's very immigrant coming to America coded, right? So that was already like a deep aspect in and of itself, a deep story, a deep real life thing, you know, that people deal with in this movie. You know, there's always gotta be something like that in these movies, in these Disney movies. Then she meets this guy who is water and sparks be flying, I guess I should say. I guess I didn't know this was about that. I had no idea what this movie was about, but I thought it was just about like, their tagline is like elements can't mix, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you, I'm not even, okay, this is gonna sound weird, but like this movie The tension between Ember and like the water guy, I forget his name, the tension between them because they're different elements and they can't touch. I was like, okay, Disney, I see what you're doing here. This movie freaking broke my heart and then repaired it. That's what you want in a movie. Dear God, please do not make a second movie of this. Disney, if you're listening to this, do not make a sequel. This movie is so good on its own. Like, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Which I think that they will, because I don't think this did very well as the other movies have. This movie is so good. I'm telling you guys, you need to watch it. It's so emotional. All the way through. I'm not even joking. All the way through. Not even just the ending or just the beginning. The whole movie, I was like, clutching my pearls. I was like, oh my gosh. So emotional the whole time. 4.5 stars. Please go see this. On the 23rd, so the next day, I went to the movie theaters and I watched Wolfman. I was really excited for this, and it's been on my radar for quite some time, pretty much since it was announced, honestly. I don't know if I'm in the minority here because I'm not really on social media, so I don't really know what the public opinion for this movie is. I give it 3 stars, and I liked it decently enough. My one gripe with it, which I'll talk about why I feel like this is not a popular opinion. My gripe with it is that the guy that is the wolf man, the main guy that's Wolfman, he was not hairy enough. He didn't look, I mean, I guess, okay, he's Wolfman, but I was expecting him to be more hairy, I guess, and he wasn't. I didn't really like how he looked. I liked how they showed his transformation into becoming Wolfman. I did like that. I don't think I really need to explain what this is about. It's just about a family. They're in a cabin in the woods. The dad becomes a Wolfman. He gets bit by something and becomes a wolfman. Whatever. This movie was pretty slow at first, and I understand why. It's just one of those things where I have to like emphasize this. If I don't like a movie, a lot of times people think it's because, oh, like you didn't get it. No, he wanted to do it like this because he wanted to show like the slow progression of like illness and like watching your loved one going through this illness and seeing the slow deterioration. I get all that, and I think that was done well. But I'm still allowed to not like it. It just wasn't for me, and I think we need to remember that because like I said earlier, some things are for some people. Some people like certain things. Sometimes people get it like that. It wasn't like that for me in this movie, but the tension was really good. Like as a horror movie, I think this is pretty good. The tension was there, and this was directed by Leigh Whannell, who I love. I love Leigh Whannell. The first Saw, yes. Thank you. I had high expectations for this just because I love him. And I was going to see this either way because I love Leigh Whannell. Yeah, no, it just wasn't for me. I didn't really like how it looked, how the Wolfman looked, which again, I understand why he did this. It's Wolfman, not werewolf. But I think this was a adaptation or like a retelling about the original Universal Monster werewolf. I've never seen that movie, so I don't know how it is. I can't compare it to that because I just genuinely don't know. But for me, no, I just didn't like the story too much. To me, it took too long to get to where we wanted to go. And maybe I should stop doing this because it might be affecting my opinion a little bit. I had to pee so bad towards like the last, I'm not even kidding you, like 40 minutes of this movie. And I was kind of like, come on, let's hurry up. Like, let's go. Because I had to go to the bathroom. And that happened again with one of these other movies. But anyways, I was a little disappointed. And I think that they wanted to do a whole like reimagining of all these Universal monsters. And they all got scrapped. And this is the only one that like stayed alive and actually saw the light of day. So I don't, that's not a good thing. We don't want to hear that everything else got scrapped. Is it because money? Not good. It's just not good. Not a good thing to happen. Next movie I watched, which I don't really watch movies like this, but I guess I was feeling some type of way and I was interested and bored. On the 27th, I watched He's Just Not That Into You from 2009. A classic rom-com with a star-studded cast, I might say. We got Bradley Cooper, I think Jennifer Goodwin, Justin Long, fucking Jennifer Aniston, and Ben Affleck, and Scarlett Johansson. So we got a lot of big names in there. And I gave this 2.5 stars. Listen, if there was any message in this, it was that if a guy likes you, he will show you that he likes you. He will make it obvious. You won't have to question it. whatever. The main girly in this movie, I think, Jennifer Goodwin. I don't know if this is like a thing with her, because there's another movie that she's in where she kind of plays the same character, where she's kind of like obsessed with men and desperate, and she's like, oh, but I'm different, and like I'm whatever, like kind of like a pick-me girl. I don't know. She was just too unrealistic in this movie, right? There were some things where I was like, okay, pretty realistic. Like Jennifer Aniston's character is dating Ben Affleck's character. They've been together for like 10 years or 7 years, and she wants to get married and he's like, no. So that's a problem. I'm like, okay, that's a realistic thing to happen, right? Another one is Bradley Cooper. He is married to someone. Oh, and Drew Barrymore is in this too. I don't know why she was in here. Her character was so like a last minute thought. She was in there. They introduced her like basically halfway through the movie, it felt like, and concluded her story like that. Like it was just, they would show little snippets of her trying to date people, and then they're just, you know, weird, leaving the same voicemail for like multiple girls, but she hears them. It's like, I was like, okay, this is not a thing. Like who, like that doesn't happen. That's never happened. Like, let's just be real. So I felt like it was kind of odd that she was in this movie. I was like, what is her role here? I don't know. Just to have another person. But Bradley Cooper's character is married, and he married his college girlfriend, but he doesn't want to be married. And then he meets Scarlett Johansson, and he's like, oh my gosh, she's so hot. I'm like, okay, I don't know. Maybe like that's a realistic thing too. Like people do cheat on their spouses. But the main character, I guess, storyline is Justin Long, Jennifer Goodwin. And he's giving her all this advice about men. Like if a guy doesn't call back, it's because he doesn't like you. Like take the hint. It's not even a hint. Like it's very obvious. And she was just so desperate. And this is the problem with like stories like this, where there's a bunch of characters and all of their stories connect. I'm like, why is she like this? Like she gives a whole speech in the very beginning of the movie, a mom telling her like 6-year-old daughter, oh, that little boy on the playground is being mean to you because he likes you and he doesn't know what to do with his feelings. And she's like, that is why I think this way. That like, why are we telling girls this? And like, blah, blah, blah. We're giving them this false hope that it's like, oh, it's the guy's problem, blah, blah. When in reality, it's like, he just doesn't like you. And I'm like, okay, I get that. So like that part, like good messaging, because it's just sort of a reality that some people need to hear, right? It's not because he's emotionally unavailable, or like, you know, sometimes it could be these things. Sometimes it could be because he doesn't know how to express his feelings, but I'm like, okay, it's kid, whatever. Like kind of a weird thing to tell your kid, like, oh, he likes you. I'm like, okay, you're 6, like you shouldn't be worried about that stuff. Don't even think about that stuff. All right, you're a child. Maybe that's just me though. Like, so sometimes these things can be true even as an adult. There's this whole montage of them being like, oh my gosh, why isn't he calling me back? And their friends are like, oh my gosh, it's because he's, you know, intimidated by you and blah, 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 trying to console her. It's like, girl, if you don't know, just be like, whatever, move on. Like maybe it's just me. I think, I don't know. I'm 25 and I'm married. So maybe I just have a different opinion about these things because of that, which, you know, could be very well true. But I just don't understand like the desperation, especially for this main character, Jennifer Goodwin's character. She is like, calling these people, calling this guy constantly. And in the movie, I think she's like 30 something. I'm like, girl, just like pick up a hobby, go take a nap. Oh my gosh. It was just so unrealistic to me. Like I've never met someone that was that desperate, was like constantly calling a guy, going to his favorite bar and hoping to run into him. I've never seen someone in real life do that. If there's people out there that do that, show yourselves. Expose yourselves, because I just want to know if it's real. Maybe it's just a me thing. It just seemed unrealistic to me, which is a problem because this movie is trying to pose itself as realistic, right? This is a thing that all women go through, whatever, that everyone goes through. And I was like, I'm sorry, like the only realistic thing that I've seen IRL is the dating someone for a long time and wanting to get married and someone doesn't want to get married. And like maybe the cheating thing. Everything else though, I was like, what is happening? I was like, I get this is supposed to be like a comedy, but yeah, no, her character just really bugged me. I don't know if she got typecasted into playing characters like that. I know she's kind of stuck like that, but that was also 2009. So maybe not anymore. Anyways, for my review, I gave it 2.5 stars, and I just said F Ben, which is Bradley Cooper's character. Okay. So that same day, I watched a movie that I'm not even kidding you. I feel like I'm a little traumatized watching this movie because it was so bad. I watched Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates from 2016. All right, so this has Zac Efron, Aubrey Plaza, Adam Devine, and Anna Kendrick as our main cast. All right. And it said it was like kind of based on a true story. And I'm like, okay, I get like the over exaggerated parts obviously are not what happened IRL. But it's like, okay, when this is like the premise, this is why I cannot watch or read like romance books because I'm like, this shit just would not happen in real life. I'm sorry, I can't disconnect from reality just for romance. Like for every other like horror, dystopian, or you know what I mean? Like sci-fi, whatever. I can distinguish, like I can take myself out of the reality and be like, okay, this is the world that we're in. But I think the problem is that it's these movies, these rom-coms or whatever are portraying as like shit that happens in real life because it's like kind of simple scenarios. It's not like super crazy scenarios, but the way shit happens in these scenarios, I'm like, okay, that would not happen. Now I get it, again, for rom-coms and like this movie specifically is a comedy, I understand that things are played up for the gags. So like I said, like I can put myself in it and I'm like, okay, this is supposed to be like funny. Nothing in this movie was funny. I'll take that back. The one person in this movie that was funny to me is Adam Devine. Okay, he was funny. His lines were the only part that I would laugh at. And I only watched this because Aubrey Plaza was in it and I'm obsessed with her. So the premise for this movie, there's these two guys, Mike and Dave, they're brothers, and they are crazy partiers. They're drinking, always getting into trouble, and shit always goes down when they're around, okay? Their sister is getting married, and their dad is like, we want you to bring dates. Like, you have to bring dates to the wedding. And I'm like, what world is that real? Okay, the very beginning of this movie says that it is loosely based on a true story. So I'm guessing that part of like, you guys need to have wedding dates is true. And yeah, I still have a hard time believing that that's true. What would be the reason for you to be like, you have to bring a wedding date? Why? Who gives a fuck if you show up with a wedding date or not? I don't care. And the sister was like, that was my request. And I'm like, why do you care if your brothers show up with a wedding date? Like, I simply do not care. I get the part that was like, don't mess up your sister's wedding. Don't make a scene. Don't ruin it. And I'm like, okay, that I understand. Like, if these people are always getting into trouble, I understand that request. Who gives a fuck if they have wedding dates? They try to pass it off as like, oh, we want you to bring two nice girls that are gonna keep you guys in check the whole time, blah, blah, blah. What? And it's like the wedding is in Hawaii, so it's like, hey, you get a free trip to Hawaii. Okay, so the story is obviously Aubrey Plaza and Anna Kendrick. They're also crazy partier girls. They see the ad. It's on like a Craigslist ad, and they go on like Wendy Williams or something. They go and try to, become their dates so they can get a free trip to Hawaii. So that's the story. I love Aubrey Plaza. And I will even say I do like Anna Kendrick, but I think whoever wrote this movie has it out for them. Like personally, because I'm like, who the fuck wrote this? Let's see. Writer. Oh, look at two guys. All of the weird, gross stuff. That's what this is why I can't watch comedy movies too, because I think like throw up, fart, and poop is like the funniest thing in the world. Or like, cum. Or like the funniest things in the world. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like who is writing this? Because this is why I can't watch comedy movies, because I'm like, if it's gross, I don't want to watch it. And that's all of the gags in this movie were stuff like the things I just listed. And I'm like, this is just not funny to me. Like, this is supposed to be for adults. This is supposed to be for adults. Again, maybe there's just some disconnect with me. It's not for me. That's okay. But it's like, come on, we can at least write better jokes. We can at least redeem my girlies a little bit. All right. There was like one god awful traumatizing scene. If you know, you probably know what it is. I'll just say when they're at the spa. That's all I'll say. So I gave this 1 star because Adam Devine, whatever the fuck, he carried the jokes in this movie. And I will say, Anna Kendrick, this might have been like one of the worst acting roles she's ever been in. I don't want to be a hater because I do love her. But oh my God, this is probably the worst movie she's been in. This is probably the worst movie. She made her voice, like she normally has kind of like a low voice. She made her voice kind of like high pitched like this. It was so off-putting, and I was like, there's actually no reason for your voice to be high pitched like that. And their friendship, people don't do that stuff. Like people just don't act like this. I have a hard time disconnecting reality when it comes to movies like comedy and romance movies. I'm sorry. I think it's only because they try to play it off like real life, especially this movie, because the very beginning they had a card that said loosely based on like a real story or whatever. So anyways, that movie sucked. Highly don't recommend. All right, next though, I watched, if nothing else tops this, I don't know what will. And that is probably the best movie that I've seen in a long time. Not a long time, because I did watch Lord of the Rings. But so far this year, this is a 5-star that I watched, and it was in January. Like, that's setting the bar up really high for the rest of the year. Who knows? And this is also the movie that I watch exclusively on my Patreon, and that is Train to Busan from 2016. Like I said, 5 stars. This was amazing in every way, shape, and form, and I don't think I'll ever be the same after seeing this movie. So the premise of this movie is it's about a dad who is separated from his wife. He has his daughter for the week, but she wants to be with her mom. So he's like, all right, let's go, drop you off at your mom's. So they're on the train, and a fucking zombie apocalypse happens, and there's a zombie trapped on the train, and everyone's getting affected, and he has to save his daughter. He's kind of like an absent father. He's always working. He bonds with his daughter real quick because he has to protect her because this crazy shit is going down. When I'm telling you, this is why I say this is one of like my best reactions, and I'm so glad I recorded it, me watching it for the first time, even though it's a little embarrassing having this on the internet now. But I'm so glad I recorded this. I bawled my eyes out. Like I was even doing the like heaving because I was crying so much watching this movie. I'm telling you, you have to see this. You have to see this movie. Even if you don't see my reaction, you need to watch this movie just in general. It hits like every emotional thing that you can possibly hit in a movie. It happens in this. You're taken for a wild ride. And it was such a nice, not short, but it was a good length, right? It was about like 2 hours or something. It was so good. I'm telling you, the whole time I was crying. And very stressful situation. We love a movie that has an interesting plot, character development, likable characters, and a villain that we can, not root for, I guess I should say. This movie had everything. Like, I would not change a thing about this movie. Actually, that's not true. I would change one thing about the ending, and I talk about that in my movie reaction. But I'm telling you, oh my gosh, heartbreaking. Heartbreaking, 5 stars, 10 out of 10. Yeah. It was incredible. Lastly, on the 30th, I watched Companion, which just came out, on the 31st, Companion. I was very intrigued with this movie, I will say. All I knew going in, I think, was about it's like a sex robot that basically becomes too hyper aware or like sentient. I don't know how else to describe it. She goes rogue, I guess I will say. I don't know. So I kind of wished when they did the trailers and stuff, when the teaser trailer for this movie came out, they just showed her having dinner with this guy. It's like a romantic dinner, and they showed her handcuffed to it, and like that was it. And I was like, I wish the whole trailer was just that. But the more and more closer it got to the release date, they were showing trailers of her being a robot, of them being like, oh my gosh, she's a robot, and like blah, 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 blah. I wish they didn't do that, because that would have made this movie 10 times better. Of you get the reveal later that she's a robot. And I'm sorry if this is well, I mean, I can't even say sorry if this is giving you a spoiler. They put it in the effing trailer because I think that would make this movie 10 times better. When I saw it with my cousin, he didn't know that. He asked me, we're walking up, like, what is this movie about? And I told him like the sex robot thing. something. There are some holes, and he described it as like plot armor, which is hilarious. I've never heard that term before. But there are some holes in what happens in this movie, which, you know, it happens for the sake of like, okay, we need this to work out because we want to do X, Y, and Z. So, and I can't go into it because they will be spoilers. If you guys want a spoiler review about it, let me know. But I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I still enjoyed the heck out of it. It was still a fun time. It was still fun, and it was actually funny too. So, which is important. Yeah, I'm telling you, I don't hate comedy movies. This isn't exactly a comedy movie. I think it's mainly described as like a horror, but I'm telling you, if it's like normal dry humor, I like that. But like comedy movies, they don't. It's not dry humor. It's like slapstick gag comedy, and I just don't vibe with that. So when it's dry humor, intense situation like in this movie, I like it. So my heart is not completely cold, I promise you. Anyways, those are all of the movies that I watched for the month of January. We're starting off February, hopefully strong. I'm gonna go see Heart Eyes, hopefully this week. I'm not sure. And I do want to see Dogman. I'm not even joking at all. I want to see that movie. I saw the trailer for it when I saw Moana, and it looked really funny. So let me know what you guys think about these movies down below. I want to give a quick shout out to everyone on my Patreon. Thank you guys so much for supporting me on there and for tuning in to the channel, to the Patreon, all of that jazz. Thank you guys so, so much. Your support truly means the world to me. Yeah, link for my Patreon will be in the description below if you want to check out that exclusive reaction to Train Busan. That will be on my Patreon. But thank you guys for coming along with me on this journey. What did you guys watch in January? What was your favorite and your least favorite? Let me know. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all of that jazz. And as always, thanks for watching.